What's going on, guys? Welcome back to Talking About Baseball. Today we're just going to be talking about how the playoffs have gone so far. I know I haven't made a video in quite a long time. I was going to make my playoff predictions, but I just didn't have enough time to make it. I will be making videos a lot more regularly from now on, so let's get into it. Starting with the American League and the wild card, we had the Rangers facing off against the Rays, and even though the Rays were the higher seed as the 3 seed and the Rangers were the 6 seed, it didn't really matter as the Rangers absolutely destroyed them. They swept them in 2 games and it really was not even close, even though the Rangers are missing their 2 best pitchers on the roster, Max Scherzer and Jacob deGrom. They snowplowed right through the Rays and it was really, like I said, was not even close. The Rays just looked absolutely terrible all series long. They had to overuse their bullpen a lot, and even though Tyler Glasnow pitched a very good game in Game 1, it, like I said multiple times now, it really still didn't even matter. On the other side, we had the Twins versus the Blue Jays, and once again, the Twins swept the Blue Jays. This time it was the higher seed beating the lower seed. The Twins won their division even though they really just weren't that good, and the Blue Jays had a better record. But the Blue Jays made some interesting moves, pulling Jose Barrios very early, and the biggest thing that hurt the Blue Jays, in my opinion, the most was Vladimir Guerrero getting picked off when they had runners on second and third, and that completely destroyed the Blue Jays' rally even though they had their best hitter up in Bo Bichette. The Twins swept the Blue Jays, and there's going to be a lot of sweeping being talked about because moving on to the NL wild card, once again, this one wasn't all that close either. We had the Marlins and the Phillies, and the Marlins were swept. We know how well the Phillies played in the postseason last year. Rob Thompson, the intern manager at the time, carried them all the way to the World Series. Bryce Harper is back, and he's been playing just as good as he has in any postseason. And they even added reinforcements from last year, mainly Trey Turner, and that he is clearly helping them as he has stolen 4 bases, more than anyone else has so far this postseason. On the other side, we have the Brewers and the Diamondbacks, and yet again, this was not close. Every single wild card was swept. The D-backs beat the Brewers by 3 runs in both games. The Brewers pitching really wasn't that bad, but the D-backs pitching was much better. There was a big call that Bryce Terang got hit by a pitch with the bases loaded in Game 1, and the call got overturned, and the Diamondbacks ended up stopping the Brewers. And that was a big momentum shifter, and Corbin Carroll has looked absolutely outstanding so far in this playoffs. Moving on to the division series, the American League teams have played 2 games so far, but the National League have only played 1, as the second one is being played as you're watching this. So starting off in the American League, we have the Orioles and the Rangers. The Rangers absolutely dismantled the Orioles on Sunday, and the day before they just barely beat them. Josh Jung hit a key game untying home run on Saturday, and the Rangers just absolutely destroyed the Orioles with a 5-run second inning and a grand slam by Mitch Garver in the third. Even though the Orioles ended up making it a bit closer at the end, it really was never all that close in that game. So the Rangers will be heading back to Texas with a 2-0 lead, and they're the 15th team in MLB history to win all 4 of their first road playoff games. On the other side, it's the Twins and the Astros, and they're tied up at 1-1. The Astros won the first game 6-4, although once again it really wasn't all that close because the Twins scored all 4 of the runs in the very first inning. Justin Verlander got taken out. He went 6 absolutely dominant innings, but the very next day it wasn't exactly the same, as Framber Valdez was not quite as good as Justin Verlander was, and Pablo Lopez was absolutely amazing. And the same thing happened. The Astros scored their only 2 runs after Pablo got taken out. Carlos Correa had a big game against his former team, and the Twins will go back to Minnesota with a 1-1 tie in the series. Today we have the Phillies and Braves with Max Fried and Zach Wheeler on the mound, and the D-backs versus the Dodgers with Zach Gallen and Bobby Miller. But in Game 1, that already happened, and it was actually extremely surprising. The lower seed Diamondbacks, who are the 6th seed facing the 2 seed Dodgers, absolutely destroyed them. They blew up Clayton Kershaw. He only got 1 out while allowing 6 runs in the first inning. The D-backs scored 9 in the first 2 innings. And Corbin Carroll continued his great playoff success as the Diamondbacks won 11-2. And I think they'll probably win again today, as Bobby Miller is still extremely unexperienced and Zach Gallen looked great in his first game against the Brewers. Moving on, we have the playoff Phillies, and obviously they play amazing in the playoffs, and they shut out the Braves 3-0. The Braves, in all of the 162 games, scored at least 1 run in 160 of them, and the 2 games that they didn't, they were both on the road. The Phillies are the first team to shut out the Braves in 2023 at home in Atlanta. The Braves lost 3-0 on Saturday, and they're hoping not to do that today. Zach Wheeler and Max Fried, I think it's going to be a great matchup, and I'll definitely be watching that one. But I'm also going to give my predictions on how far I think these teams will go and how I think the rest of the playoffs will go. Personally, I think the Rangers are going to go to Texas, and the Orioles are actually going to win the first game, but then the Rangers are going to win Game 4, and even though the Orioles were the 1 seed, I think the Rangers are going to take them out and end up winning anyway. And then we have the Twins and the Astros. I think it's going to be a big pitching duel, and I think the Astros might even send Verlander back out there for Game 4, because under Sonny Gray, I think the Twins will be winning Game 3 tomorrow, and I think that the Astros will win Game 4, giving it a Game 5 heading back to Houston. And I think if Justin Verlander was on the mound for Game 4, then the Astros are winning, and if he's not, they're losing. But then they don't really have anyone to pitch Game 5 outside of Framber Valdez. But Framber is going to take the mound Game 5 in Houston, 2-2 tie, and I think he's going to destroy the Twins. But I think so is Pablo Lopez, because I think he'll go back out there, and it'll end up being a bullpen game. And I think Carlos Correa is going to clutch up, and the Twins are going to beat the Astros, making it a Rangers-Twins championship series, which I don't think anyone would have thought of before the playoffs started. Moving on, we have the Diamondbacks and the Dodgers, and they will be playing Game 2 tonight, where I think the Diamondbacks will win yet again, taking it back to Arizona. And I think it's going to be a similar thing with like I think is going to happen with the Rangers. I think the Dodgers will win the first game in Arizona, and then I think the Diamondbacks will end up taking it Game 4, and they will head to the championship series. And in my opinion, they will not be facing the Braves in that championship series. I think the Phillies are going to find a way to stop the Braves. The Braves are going to win Game 2 today, in my opinion. And then they're going to split again in Philly. And then Game 5 in Atlanta, I think the Phillies will take it, even though they're going to be on the road. The Phillies are just such an electric playoff team. And so it will be Rangers-Twins and Phillies versus Diamondbacks in the championship series. Starting with Game 1, Rangers-Twins, I think Max Scherzer will actually be ready to pitch in this series, and that I think is going to be a huge advantage for the Rangers. We're starting in Texas for the first 2 games, and I think Texas takes both of them. And then you go to Minnesota for 3, and I think Texas only takes 1, and the Twins take the other 2. Going back to Texas with the Rangers up 3-2, and I think this could be maybe the first game Scherzer pitches and maybe the second. But if it is 3-2 heading into Texas for Game 6, I think they put Scherzer on the mound, and I think he wins, winning 4-2 against the Twins, and the Rangers, well, not the score 4-2, but the series 4-2 in games, and heading to the World Series, where they will be meeting the Phillies, in my opinion. The Phillies will be facing the Diamondbacks, and starting in Philadelphia, I think the Phillies will lose Game 1 and then win Game 2, and then I think the Phillies will win 2 out of 3 against them in Arizona, putting it 3-2 heading back to Philly, and they will also win in a Game 6. So it'll be a Rangers-Phillies World Series, and I think the Rangers will win the World Series in 7 games against the Phillies. It'll go all the way to Game 7 on November 4th, all the way to November. There's going to be a game on Halloween. It's going to be a great playoffs, but I think the Rangers will end up taking it because I just don't see a single hole in that Rangers offense. I hope you enjoyed watching, and I'll be making more playoff content soon, and I'll see you next time on Talking About Baseball.